So this particular webinar, this is our 5th webinar, so welcome to this session. This is going to be on virtual job fairs. Now, I know a couple of days ago and then coming into today, I keep running into a few errors in the training region. So hopefully we won't have that happen today, but if we do, we may have to kind of pivot. So this is going to be an overview of the virtual job fair session. Now, this is for anyone who is going to be interacting with employers and hosting job fairs. This is also good for staff, frontline staff as well, because you may get questions when job seekers are trying to participate in a virtual job fair. So this is pretty much what we're going to cover today. Now, everything we do is going to be in the training region. So just make sure that if you decide to go into the system to play around and you want to create a job fair to kind of get hands-on practice in creating these, make sure you're doing that in the training region, which is going to be where we are today. As far as what we're going to cover, we're going to kind of define what a virtual job fair is. We're going to show you how to access and create a virtual job fair in the portal. And then we're going to demo how to create it, how to add attendees. That includes your employers and your job seekers. And then how a job seeker will access that virtual event, and then how an employer is going to access that virtual event. So basically, what is a virtual job fair? It's any job fair or hiring event that we're holding online. It's an online alternative to the traditional in-person hiring events. They pretty much create an opportunity for recruiters to connect with prospective candidates to discuss any employment opportunities remotely. And we know, of course, during COVID, this became very popular. And since then, employers do like to have this option available to them. Now, how do you get to the actual virtual job fair in the system? And I'm going to show you this when we go in to demo it. From the staff side, you're going to go to the left-hand navigation and select Manage Activities. It's not on a main widget. So again, left-hand navigation, Manage Activities. Then once you get to that page, you're going to see an option, Manage Virtual Job Fair. So now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go in the system, and I do want to let you know there's a lot of moving parts to this. So you're going to see I'm going to have 3 different browsers up. I'm going to have one that's the staff, one that's the job seeker, and one that's the employer. So keep in mind there's a lot of pieces to this. This is the staff, and this is kind of where it begins. So as a staff person, you are likely going to want to come in here and let's say you have an employer who said, I really want to do a hiring event, but I don't want to do anything on site. I really just want to do this virtually. You have the ability to set that up in the system. So from the left-hand navigation, I'm going to select Manage Activities, and I'm going to go to Manage Virtual Job Fair. Now, as you see on my screen, I already have one that I had created, but in this instance, I want to show you actually how to add it. So I'm going to add a job fair. And then I'm going to put my title in. And then below is going to be your description. Now, what I'm putting in here is all things that the job seeker and employer is going to see, and it's going to create some of the wording that's going to go on what is called their booth. So I'm going to put in something about this virtual job fair, spring hiring event for individuals. Let's see. In the technology field. And then I may want to put some additional details in there. But for sake of time, I'm just going to put that. Now I can come down and I can put in a class size. So if I wanted to limit it, I could, or I can make it unlimited. it actually is not required. So if I left it to none selected, it's going to let whoever register. So I can make it unlimited if I want to specify that. But in this instance, if I don't do anything, it's really going to be unlimited. I can share it statewide, meaning any job seeker who comes in and they select that virtual job fair link, it's going to show them the job fair. I can even make it available to veterans only. I'm going to come down. Now, with job fairs, with virtual events, it's a one-time event. So you have to go in and you have to select each time. If you're going to hold an event multiple times for the same employer, you'll need to go in and create multiple events. So like in this instance, I'm going to say it is going to be tomorrow. And I can go in and I can change the time if I want, the start time and the end time. Here's like a list of all the different times I can select from. I can make it a hidden event if I want, or not hidden. Now, in these instances, if you are going to be creating a virtual job fair, you must pull business services involved. So the same process that we talked about on regular events a few weeks ago is going to apply. If you create something, you're going to want it to be hidden, and that has to go through business services. No one should be coming in and creating virtual events without business services involvement. You're going to come down and you're going to display to individuals and employers. And then you're going to select your region. And this is the region that this job fair is associated with. And in my instance, I'm going to just say the Griffin Career Center. Now, I don't know if you remember in some of the previous presentations we did with events, but you have the ability to select attendance tracking, where it's going to allow you to select whatever level of service for individuals, and it will auto write those services when you mark them as attended. So I'm going to go to self-service registered individual only. And that's likely what you're going to want to do, because if you restrict it to people with Wagner-Pizer, it's going to require a Wagner-Pizer application, and you're not going to want to do that, especially for a large-scale event. And then whatever self-services that are in there, you could select them. And in production, there's some more than just the one. And then you're going to select the service for employers. So when you show that the employer attended, it will write that service over. Now, are you going to require a registration? In my instance, I'm going to say yes. And then I can add any staff instructions here, very similar to the events that we went over a few weeks ago. And then, do you want to alert the moderator anytime new registrations come in? So I'm creating the event, so the system's got me in as the moderator. You can change that, but we're just going to leave it. And in this instance, I don't want several emails about the new registrations, but you may if you are moderating that event. Because I will say this, it's probably a good idea to put yes on here, because what you're going to want to do then is provide some instructions to the job seeker, because they are going to need to set up their profile when they go in to set up these events for themselves, because they want to attend it. For the employer, you have the ability to kind of set those things for the employer, but you don't have the ability to set the job seeker's profile. The job seeker has to set it themselves, and we'll show you that in a minute. So then you come down and you put your moderator information in, and the phone number, you have to go in and kind of enter that yourself. Sometimes it pulls over, and I know it has to do with my profile in the training region. So then I'm going to hit save. Okay. So now what you're going to see is it's going to take you to this What Next tab. If you look, it says guided step, and I want to keep that on because this is walking me through the creation of the event. So it's telling me the next step is to set up this virtual welcome booth. This is for the entry point for individuals and employers, but it's really setting that up for what you want the job seeker and the employer to see, but then you're also going to be able to set it up for the employer. So it's telling me to click this booth icon, which is up here in the right-hand side. So I'm going to select booth. And this is configuring my booth as a staff person that you want the public to see about this event. So if I scroll down, I can go in and I can select a booth card. And these are images. Now, if you're going to upload images for this, you need to make sure you're working with someone who knows how to set up these images. So in our instance, it might be Tyler. And make sure that these have the right dimensions, because if you don't, they're going to look a little squirrely. And you'll see that because the ones I have for this example are not going to upload perfectly because I didn't go through anyone to get these particular images. But for sake of presentation, I'm just going to go ahead and use what I have. So I'm going to select my file, and I want to put in this virtual event information. This is what's going to go on my booth about my event. And so I've selected what I want to go up. I have to remember to select upload. And it takes a minute. So you can see it's loading. And now you see my little image is right there. Now maybe I want to put a flyer on there for individuals to see a little bit more about this event. So I'm going to select that. I'm going to select my flyer. And then I'm going to upload. And hopefully I'm not going to get any errors. I know yesterday the training region gave me a bunch of errors. There we go. Okay. So now I have my booth card banner images up in the system. Now I can come down and I can also put in information, additional information about the event if I wanted to. So this could be something like a virtual event, hiring individuals in the technology field, key employer is robotic company, something like that. And you may have something, like a standard tagline or whatever you want to put about your event, maybe something you've taken from the marketing of the event to put in here. I can hit update. Okay. And then I can come over here and I can preview this. And here's what it's going to look like. So anything you want the customers to see to kind of market this event is what you want to put here. Now I'm going to go back to my fair, and you see that it says virtual welcome booth setup complete. So now what I'm going to do is the next step is to select employers to invite. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to open my filter and I'm going to select employers. And what I want to do is, if I already know who the employer is that I want to invite, I can go to advanced and do a search. Or if I was to select unregistered, and it's going to take a second to process. A list is going to come up. Now, what I do want to say about this list is, because I selected Griffin, it's going to default to employers in my region or in my area. So if there's a specific employer that you're looking for, you're going to need to come in and do advanced and do a search. And then when you search it, it's going to give you the option to add that employer. In this instance, here's the company I want. So I'm going to select it. And then in my action, I'm going to select register. Now, look, I also have the ability to invite. At some point, if the person comes back and says they don't want to participate, I can remove them, and I can also send them messages through this action. But I want to go ahead and register them. Okay. And now you see in this little guided path, it says select employers is complete. So I've done that part. So in my instance, I'm really just holding a hiring event for this one employer. Now, what I can do, once you set up that employer, You're also going to want to set up their booth as well. And what you're going to do is you're going to select that company on the left-hand side, and you see it's come up to this preview page. If I select configure, I have the ability to add a logo. Now on this account, this employer already had a logo there, so it's going to pull that logo in. But maybe I want to select a banner that I want to load. So I would select my file, and I'm going to select my banner, update. And everything I'm doing for the employer is going to be able to do themselves as well on their profile. But I highly encourage you to help them do this. And then whatever the employer had in their about information, we'll pull in. If they want to edit it, we can edit it here as well. And we can come down, and there's other information for us to update, make sure it's right. Maybe we want to put in the website. Maybe that's where the applications are as well. We can hit update. And if there's anything else we need to update on the page, maybe we want to put in additional social media information, that can be updated as well. Very similar to the employer account, which is where this is pulling from. Now, all employers and job seekers must have an account in the system to be able to do this. And then I can come over and preview, and here it is. Now, you see how kind of weird this looks at the top. Again, you need to make sure you're working with somebody who knows how to set up these graphics appropriately to the image sizes, because it does give you in the configurations the optimal image dimensions, and that's what it needs to be set at. So it will look a lot cleaner than what it does on mine. Okay, so now I've set that part up, but I still need to also set up the jobs. So I can select jobs at the top, and I've got to make sure I've selected the jobs that you want job seekers and employers to view. And this is what the jobs are that they're recruiting for specifically for this event. So I'm going to select it by selecting that link right there. And then I'm pretty much done with that part. And then if I go back to my fair at the top, you see select jobs is complete, because that was the next step. Now I need to select candidates. To select candidates, it's the same idea as you did for the employers. You're going to go over to candidates. Now, a job seeker can come in, when they go into their page, there's going to be a widget, and on the widget, you're going to see virtual events. They can go there and actually register for an event as well. But let's say you're talking to someone and they said, oh, I want to participate in that event. Then you can go in and actually put them on as registered, or you can also invite them. So in this instance, you've got to start, if you're going to go in and try to find a list of people, you've got to start with those that are unregistered. And then a list of people are going to come up, similar to it was with the employers. You're going to check the box next to their name. You're going to select register, invite, whatever your action is. In most instances, it's going to be invite, and it's going to send them an email to say, hey, here's an event you may want to register for. When they click on it, it'll take them to another page to actually register. In this instance, I'm just going to say register, and then I'm going to select. And now if I were to come up and open this filter and said, show me all the candidates registered for the event, there's my individual. And if I select their name, you're going to see a list of information. Now, this individual has set up their profile, but I'm going to show you how they can set it up, because in some instances, it's going to show that the person hadn't set up their profile. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the job fair, because I'm not finished yet. There is one other step that you're going to want to pay attention to and make sure you're having a conversation with the employer. And that's on how are they going to do interviews. So within the portal, the default is Zoom, but there's steps if you're going to use Zoom. So if I were to click here, you're going to see a list of information. It says Zoom is the default provider of audio and video conferencing for the virtual job fair. These are all steps that staff have to do in order for this to work. Now, I'm not going to go into every step of this because it's more hands-on, and I don't want to create fictitious stuff in Zoom, but you would download the file here, and then you're going to upload it to zoom.com, and it's going to create accounts for the individuals, for the employer to be able to go in and basically utilize Zoom to set up interviews through the system. And this has all the instructions for you, the staff, where you're going to need to go into your account, go into the admin panel, and this goes all the way down and gives you step-by-step instructions. Now, an employer does have the ability to utilize their own software for meetings, such as WebEx or Teams, and I'll show you how they do that. So if I go back to my job fair, you see I'm finished. I can come down here and I can actually share these registration links with individuals. I would highly encourage you to utilize this and actually pull your unregistered and invite people to attend, specifically if it's targeted to individuals. Like in this event, it's targeted to people in the technology field. So now what I want to do, and remember I said there's a lot of moving parts to this, I'm actually going to go to my employer, and my employer I have in Firefox. So let me pull up that browser. And now here's my employer. My employer is already signed in, and for the employer to get to the event, they're going to go to the left-hand navigation and they're going to select recruitment services. And then they're going to select virtual job fair. And then here is the information. Now, for whatever reason, looks like it went in twice because I only had one in here earlier, but this is the one that I just created right here. And you see how this image doesn't look as good because, again, I didn't go through anybody to set this up and make sure it's, you know, what it needs to be. But the employer can select this profile. And here's where the employer can actually change the information from what staff set up, or they can go in and set up their own. Now, within that profile, do you see this first thing? It says, are you using a different meeting provider? If I were to say yes, that means I can go in and utilize my own meeting link that I'm going to be able to create. So if I come over here and I select preview, here's what it looks like to customers, and I can add, you know, edit as I need, which would be on that configure tab. I can see my jobs. This is my job that's showing to individuals. If I added more jobs to the system, I could go in and select them as the employer. I can go in and actually see anyone who is on this. So as you see, this individual is on my job fair. I can select this individual's name. Oh, and see right here, it says Rhonda has not completed the job fair profile. So she's going to have to go in and complete her profile. And if she doesn't do that, then the employer's not going to be able to get to see her resume and all that good stuff. Now, if I were to go back to my dashboard, I'm going to show you one where I do have it set. Go back to my recruitment services, virtual job fair. On this one, I do have it set where Rhonda has already gone in and set up her profile. And this is taking a minute. There we go. Okay, so now you see it. They can see the skills, the driver's license, the references, the resume, everything that Rhonda has set up on her profile. And one thing that you may not know, job seekers can actually go into their general settings on any account, and they can actually upload their picture if they wanted to do so. And so that's just an option that's out there for job seekers if they wanted to put a picture of themselves on the system. Now, the job seeker and employer can communicate with each other through this chat feature. So in this example, this employer went into chat and they sent this individual a message, and they just come down to the bottom and they put their message in and they hit send, and it's going to send a message to the job seeker. They can also go in and set up an interview. And in this instance, they already have an interview set up. I'm going to go to new interview, and this is where they're going to create it. Now, as you see, the first thing that you don't have in here is that meeting link to edit. And that's because it's automatically defaulting to Zoom. But once you schedule the interview, it's going to look like this. And then you're going to have to select this edit as the employer. This is the employer. And then they're going to put their individual meeting link in here, and then they'll hit save. And that is what you see on this scheduled. And when the job seeker comes in to select the meeting link, it's going to utilize WebEx in this instance, because that's what the employer has set up for this job seeker. Now, the other piece that this has is this for the employer, and staff will be able to see this as well. There's a history, and as you see, all the actions that I've actually done on this particular account, you see each time the person viewed the candidate profile and they went to that interview. So this is just for the employer to kind of get an idea of who they communicated with on the particular event. Now, I want to go in as the job seeker, and the job seeker is in Chrome. So here's my job seeker, and the job seeker can come down, and do you see this virtual job fair? If I select virtual job fair as the job seeker, I can see all of my events that I'm scheduled for. This is the one that I was not registered on. So when I click on it, it shows the information on the job fair and the employer that's attending. But I have to set up my profile. So this is where staff come into play, because you're going to need to tell job seekers they need to set up their profile, because otherwise you're going to have an event. Employer's going to click on every job seeker in the system, and they're not going to be able to see anything about the job seeker. So if I go in and set up my profile, I can select the resume that I want associated with it, and it's going to pull it in. And it takes a minute. In fact, what I found in the test region is that I'm going to have to come in and out of it, and it will actually display, but in production, it will immediately come in there. And then I can go back to my fair, and now I have this profile set for the robot company. And if I go to their information, see, I got an error. Let me see if I can go to back to my events. This is the training region. So see if it'll let me do it here. Yeah. So if I'm the job seeker and I go into this particular event, and here's the robot company, I can view the information. And then because this is highlighted in green right here, this means, hey, you have a message. The employer is trying to communicate with you. I can go to the chat, and here's the message that the individual sent me. And then I can come back and say, yes, I would love to speak with you. And I can send that back to the employer. And then I can come over to my interview. And if they said, hey, we want to set up an interview, we have it set for you at 2 p.m. Maybe they said that in the chat. Now, here's my interview right here. And when I select this meeting link, it's actually going to open up WebEx. And it's going to take me to join a meet on WebEx to meet with that employer. It's also going to write to my calendar on my dashboard that I have an appointment at 11 a.m. with the robot company. And then I also have a history as the job seeker as to what occurred. And then again, I can come up to the jobs and I can actually view it just like you do in the system, any other job, and apply to it. And that is pretty much how this works. And then as staff, I do want to go back to the staff side, because when you as staff come back into the system, you're going to come back to manage activities, manage virtual job fair, and then whatever your event is, you're going to select it, and there's going to be a attend option, and you're going to select attend. And here's where you have all the activity that's going on in the system. So you can view all of that and then your history with that employer. And in this one, I really don't have a lot, but I can also come up to this job seeker and I see that she's got activity, because that's where that little highlighted green or circle around the person's picture. I can see that there's activity going on with this job seeker. And I can actually chat directly as well with the individual. How is the job fair going? Blah, 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 blah. And I can do the same with the employers. So now go back to my dashboard. And I'm actually going to go back to my PowerPoint and just kind of remind you of some things that we covered. So employers and job seekers must be registered on the portal to participate in virtual job fairs. Employers or staff can set up the individual profiles to include a banner for their booth, uploading of an individual flyer, information about the company, and social media. Be sure to include information about Zoom if that is the platform that you are using. So maybe on your flyer, you would say something. There's a lot of communication that's going to have to be happening when you're working with these virtual job fairs, whether it's going to be on a flyer that you're going to post or an email that you're sending to participants, but you are going to have to kind of guide them through this, because it's not really super intuitive up front to the individual. So you do have to guide them through some of this, which again is where some of your frontline staff are going to come in, because job seekers are going to come to you and say, I'm trying to join this event and I don't know what's going on. And so you're going to have to kind of have an idea of how this operates. You may not be necessarily setting it up if you're not business services or you're not a leaver, but you may be helping. So just keep that in mind. And again, if the employer is using another software such as WebEx or Teams, then they may also use that as opposed to Zoom, but that must be configured within their profile for each individual interview request. So if I had 10 people I wanted to interview as an employer, I have to go into each interview and set up that meeting link separately. Again, staff will need to select attend if you're the moderator to attend that job fair, to make sure that you're online for any questions from job seekers and employers. For employers to access the event, they're going to that recruitment services option on the left-hand side of their navigation. And then they're going to go to virtual job fair. And then as far as job seekers, as a reminder, they need to set up their profile for each virtual event that they attend. They will select virtual job fair on the current month's events. This is also where they're able to register if they're not already registered for it. It will bring up the event. They will have the option to register if they're not already registered. If they are, they're going to get a page just like this, where they're going to select profile and update their profile. And that's where we went in and selected the resume that we want the employer to view for that particular position. And then for job seekers, they have that ability to view any interviews, chat, look at the booths and the jobs and their history on that profile. But when they select the profile, this is the page that it's taking them to. And then as a reminder with Zoom, Zoom is what is utilized and an account must be set up, or the employer may use their own software, but must update their profile to indicate they are utilizing an alternative. And then they would need to create a new interview, and then they have to go in and edit it because the default is going to default to Zoom. And so they need to select edit and put in whatever meeting link they are utilizing. Maybe their company has a policy that they can't use Zoom. And then in that instance, maybe their policy is they have to use WebEx or they have to use Teams. Then that's how they would do it. And then as far as virtual events, if you are going to schedule events, staff must engage business services. No staff should be setting up virtual job fairs without contacting business services and coordinating efforts to ensure seamless delivery of services to our employers. Before scheduling any dates for virtual job fairs, email business services for approval, and to contact them, the email address is on the slide, and it's also in our policies for events. Now, do you have any questions?
Okay, Rhonda, there were a couple on the chat box. John was asking when staff is contacting the marketing department regarding if they need them, I imagine, to help them configure those images. Would the link for the event is what's going to be shared with the marketing department, or how do they reach out to them?
You would have to, if you're wanting marketing to create the event, to create the image, then you would just instruct in that communications. We have to submit that link to communications, and then we upload. It's the same process with the events flyers, anything that we're wanting them to create, and you provide them what you're wanting. You're not necessarily, well, you could send them the link to the event, but they're not going to go in and upload those images for you. You're going to want to send them the link to the event because you're wanting them to maybe create a flyer or something. So you would just explain to them what image you're wanting, and then they would create the image. They're going to give the image back to you to upload because they're not going to be going in the system and uploading those images. Just like if an employer sent you an image, but the image is not the size limitations that it needs to be, then you would attach those images to communications for them to fix it where that size meets the standard for the system.
Okay, now, and Tracy asked a question, and I don't know if she wants to ask it, but because I'm not sure, she's asking, what if staff is asked to review resumes and set appointments prior to an employee event, whether in person or virtual? How do we do that? So I don't know if she wants to ask it again, or if you'll understand.
Hi, Miss Rhonda. Good morning.
Morning.
So I know that Atlanta Career Center is having, they're having an in-person, a solo employer event there today. And so we're thinking of reviewing, having the staff review some of the resumes in the portal. And the employer asked if we could set appointments for them, instead of just having all these people, come at them at the event. So I was wondering, is there a way to do that?
There is, but that's a whole nother thing. And so we could offline show you how to do that. That's a process.
Okay,
And it's not really specifically related to virtual events.
got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
And that's all I had. Yeah.
Is there any other questions related to virtual events? Okay. Now I do want to say,
I have a question. Good morning.
morning.
Is texting an option to notify the job seeker versus email?
Yes, it's just like any other event. So when you go in to set it up and you do the invitation, you have the option to send a text message as long as they put their phone number in the system. If they didn't put a text option, then you can't.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Hi, Miss Rhonda.
Uh-huh.
Hey, this is Alana Hicks King. How are you?
How are you?
Quick question. Well, I have several questions. I won't ask all of them. I will probably just try to set up a discussion offline. But I was listening to everything that you were going over, because we have a few scenarios here at WorkSource DeKalb that we've been trying to work on. So I know this one is the virtual piece. Um, in the system, so if I have it correct, individuals need to make sure that they have a profile or that they set up a profile in the WorkSource portal. And any employers that want to participate in a virtual job fair with this process, they also have to set up their profile in the system
Correct.
as well. So
Yes.
it's going to be pulling from. So for example, if I go in, I put in as a customer, I go in, I put in all of my information, I set up my profile, I put in my resume. Ms. Vincent, who just talked, she goes in, she puts in her information, and Anthony Sims puts in his information, right? So a virtual ABC Marta decides that they're going to want to do a virtual interview. One question I had was, do they have to put in all of their jobs, or did I hear you say that they can provide a link that if I go in, I would be able to click on the link and see the positions that they have open?
So their jobs need to be in the portal. So
Okay.
whatever jobs that they're hiring for, we should not be providing any services to an employer without having their jobs in the system.
Okay, and who actually approves? Because I heard you say business services, but I was assuming that's not is that our teams locally, or is that the business service team with TCSG?
Business services team with TCSG.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Okay, thank you for that. I will send an email with some additional questions and information, but thank you. This has been very helpful.
You're welcome.
Okay, Wanda, Clifton also asked, will the employers be validated before the virtual job fair?
Yes, they must be validated. So you would have to have an employer account, and that would still follow the employer account process. So, when they put that employer account in, we have a validation process on that to make sure that the person is legit. And, we want to make sure that someone's not coming in here trying to create an event to market something other than an open job.
Okay, so because that's going to mean when they pull the employer from the list, they're going to have a profile already set up. The employer, that is. Yes. Okay.
Correct. Yeah, we can't add anyone to an event that does not have a recruiting account.
Okay.
Thank you, Miss Rhonda and Miss Bina.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
Oh, yes, ma'am. Again, this morning. Good morning. And I didn't identify myself the first time. This is Faye Vincent. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. So is it the responsibility of the staff to assist employers with the navigation of entering that data into the portal? Or where do they, if they want to start a profile, who is going to walk them through the training like you all have done us these past 5 weeks?
So Wagner Pizer staff are who provide these services. So any Wagner Pizer staff should know how to tell an employer how to create an account in the system, which is ultimately what they need in order to participate in this. Wagner Pizer staff should know where an employer can update their profile. Now, with these virtual events, they are going to need to have some background knowledge should this employer call and say, well, I participate in this event, but I'm a little confused on how I need to set this up. You should be able to at least kind of direct them. And we will also, you can always email policy or business services, and they can also give you some direction as well and help with that. I know Joel Alexis, he's very involved in all of these hiring events. And so he will also be able to assist. But let's start with emailing, some of our main mailboxes like WorkForce or this policy mailbox internally. Policy mailbox is an internal email. So no one should be giving this out to an external employer or job seeker. The workforce email is external, meaning any customer can view that email address. But yes, we are here to assist. And so if there is some questions or maybe staff get a little confused, and it will be that way when we first start utilizing this, because it's a new process for everybody when it comes to virtual events. But as far as actually setting up an employer account, all Wagner Piper staff know how to do that.
And Joel Alexis is in what capacity?
Joel Alexis is in business services at the state office.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's why it's very important we engage business services. So no one should be going in the system without emailing business services and saying, and have an employer that wants to set up a virtual event, and then somebody from that team needs to be helping with that. Any other questions? Okay. Well, thank you for attending. And if you think of anything, you can always email our policy mailbox. It's on the screen, and we will respond and give you your answers. And hopefully, as you start to use this, I know more questions will come up because it's really new to all of us. None of us have actually done a virtual event in this particular system. So once we start implementing it, that's when we're really going to be seeing some more questions from everybody. But if that's it, hope you have a great rest of your week.